welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well, let's learn English together. And hello again, people. How are you all doing? Is everything going well today? Yes? I'm sure that it is. And before we get started, and before I forget, what about the weekend? Did you all have a good weekend? Did you go out smelling as fresh as a bouquet of flowers? Feminine flowers, if you're a woman, and more masculine flowers, obviously, if you're a man. I'm not sure which flowers fall into the category of masculine, but don't ask me, ask a botanist. All right, so I presume that you all went out smelling nice and had some fun on Friday, and then perhaps even on Saturday. And what about Sunday? Well, maybe on Sunday you decided to have a bit of a rest. Perhaps you had a lie-in, you know, when you deliberately turn your alarm clock off and sleep for longer than usual. And then, when you wake up, you don't rise out of your bed like a rocketing pheasant, but you take your time. It's Sunday. You don't have anything urgent to do, so you can afford to be a little bit lazy. You lie in bed, then when you do finally get up, you make a nice breakfast slowly and then start your day at a reduced speed. It's easy. Easy like Sunday morning. All right, now, Sunday morning, even if it was easy, has come and gone. And once again, here we all are on Monday morning, millions of miles away from Friday. Oh no, cerise catastrophe, maroon mishap, fuchsia fiasco. Oh well, never mind. We know what we have to do, don't we? Yes, that's right. No cowering under the table for us.
I know! Drink Neil over it! It might sort of cover up the blast! There's no time. Quick, under the shelter. Yes! Look, I've got a gun and I'm not afraid to use it.
No, that's not our style. We're made of sterner stuff than that. We don't hide under tables. We don't cower behind the door. We don't spend all of our time in the closet. No, we stand up straight. We put our shoulders back. We expand our chest and we look Monday straight in the eye. Because we know that we've got things to learn, things to study. And we also know that the quicker we get stuck into our lessons, the quicker we find ourselves on the other side. And that means that we're one day closer to Friday. So, stand up straight, shoulders back, and look Monday in the eye. Ooh, blimey. Monday's eye looks like Monday was drinking a bit too much last night. That's like Alfredo's eyes when he's got a hangover. All right, well, moving swiftly along, who remembers what we were talking about last lesson? Yes, that's right. Last lesson, we were looking at the past simple tense, weren't we? Yes, and more specifically, we were looking at what we do when we want to make negative sentences using the past simple forms of verbs. Verbs other than the verb to be, that is. Okay, so we all remember that when we want to make a negative sentence using the verb to be in the past simple tense, we have to add the adverb not to one of two forms, either was or were. One of the two forms of the verb to be in the past simple. So that means that we'll either use was not or the abbreviated form wasn't, or were not or the abbreviated form weren't. Which form we use depends on which subject we're using in the sentence. If we're talking about the first or third person singular form, then we'll be using was not or wasn't. And if we're talking about the second person singular or any of the plural forms, then we'll be using were not or weren't. Okay, we all know this. So let's move on to the idea of using a different verb in the past simple, something which isn't the verb to be. All right, well, this too is simple enough, isn't it? So what do we have to do? Is it enough to just add the adverb not? That word we always need when we want to make a negative in English? Is it enough for us to add not to the end of the verb in the past simple? No, that's not enough, is it? All right. Think about how we make negative sentences in the present simple tense. What is it that we need to make a negative sentence in the present simple? Yes, that's right. We need something to help us. We need a helping verb. We need an auxiliary verb, don't we? Yes. In the present simple, when we want to make a negative sentence, we need to use the auxiliary verb do. Bob Stoltz doesn't, does not, like asparagus on his pizza. Okay, so there's a present simple sentence about Bob Stoltz, and we're using the verb to like. But we haven't conjugated the verb to like, have we? No. When we make a negative sentence using a verb in the present simple, we add the auxiliary verb do and we conjugate that. The main verb stays in the infinitive. Okay, so that's what we do in the present simple tense. So what do we do if the sentence we're making is in the past simple? Well, that's easy. Which verb is the auxiliary verb we use in the present simple? Do. Exactly. And what's the past simple form of the verb to do? Did. Bingo. So, when we want to make a negative sentence using the past simple, we need the past simple form of the auxiliary verb do. We need did. And what's different about sentences in the past simple? Sentences we make with the auxiliary verb did. Yes, that's right. In the past simple, there is only one form, which means that we don't have to worry about which form of the verb goes with which subject. They're all did. So, well, that certainly makes things simpler for us, doesn't it? Yes. Okay. So let's see if we can change that sentence about Bob Stoltz. Let's see if we can change it from a present simple sentence in the negative to a past simple sentence in the negative. Okay, so what do we start with? Well, we start with the subject, of course. This isn't a question, so we start with the subject or a subject pronoun. Bob Stoltz. Okay, now what? Well, what follows the subject? That's right. We follow the subject with the verb. Which verb? Good question. Because we're making a sentence which needs an auxiliary verb, we follow the subject with the auxiliary verb. And in this case, because we're making a negative sentence in the past simple, we're going to use did not, or the abbreviated version, didn't. So, what does that give us? Bob Stoltz didn't, did not. Okay, now what? Well, now it's very simple, isn't it? Now we have to add the main verb. And what form is the main verb in? Yes, we conjugated the auxiliary verb. We don't have to do anything to the main verb. The main verb stays in the infinitive. Let's see it. Bob Stoltz did not like. All right. Now what? Well, we've done the difficult bit. Now all we have to do is complete the sentence. That's simple. Bob Stoltz did not like asparagus on his pizza. And now what? Well, nothing. It's done. The sentence is finished. It's a negative sentence in the past simple. We started with the subject, used the auxiliary verb did, added the adverb not, and then followed with the main verb and the rest of the sentence. Done. Dusted. Okay, all right. So we know how to make negative sentences using verbs in the past simple too. It's not hard. We have to use the past simple form of the verb to do as an auxiliary verb, but that's not difficult. We use did for all the subject forms, which makes everything very easy. We add the adverb not to the end of did, and that gives us either did not or the abbreviated form didn't. And then all we have to do is follow with the main verb in the infinitive. We've conjugated the auxiliary verb, so we don't have to do anything to the main verb. After that, all we have to do is follow with the rest of the sentence. Simple. Okay, and what about asking questions using verbs in the past simple? What happens then? Well, what do you remember? What do we need to do? What do we need to ask a question in the past simple? Think about how we ask questions in the present simple. What do we need to ask a question in the present simple? Yes, that's right. We need an auxiliary verb, don't we? And which auxiliary verb do we know? Yes, bingo bongo, jingo jongo, flingo flongo, and so on and so forth. The auxiliary verb we need is none other than do.
Do.
Yes, we need the auxiliary verb do, and we need the correctly conjugated form of the verb to do, either do or does. All right, so logically, what do you think that we need when we want to ask a question in the past simple? Yes, that's right again. When we want to ask a question in the past simple, we need the past simple form of the same auxiliary verb that we use when we ask a question in the present simple. We need the past simple form of the verb to do. We need did. All right, so on we go. Let's ask a question using a verb in the past simple. Let's start with a positive statement and then turn that statement into a question. He saw his best friend's mum in the sushi restaurant yesterday. Okay, easy peasy Japanesey. It's a positive statement. There's no sign of the adverb not. We start, as usual, with the subject. Well, in this case, the corresponding subject pronoun, he. All right. And then what? Well, as you can see, we follow the subject with the verb to see, in the past simple tense. And we can see that the verb to see is irregular. There's no ed ending here, is there? No. See becomes saw. All right. And then what? Well, then we've got the direct object, the thing that he saw, his best friend's mum. And then we finish the sentence with some information about where he saw his best friend's mum. Okay, simple. Now, we can easily make two questions from this sentence, can't we? We can make one simple, easy question first, a question to get a yes or no answer. And then we can make a question using a question word, can't we? Okay then. Let's do the simple one first. Did he see his best friend's mum in the sushi restaurant yesterday? Okay, so what did we do to make that question? Well, because it's a question, we know that we don't start with the subject, but with the verb. And because we're asking a question in the past simple, we know that this means that we have to start the question with the auxiliary verb did. So, we start with did and follow with the subject. We've reversed the position of the subject and the verb. We've swapped them about. Okay, and then what did we do? Well, then, as you can all see, well, if you can see all right.
Can you see all right?
No, that's why I wear glasses.
Okay, so we swapped the positions of the subject and the verb and we started the sentence with the auxiliary verb in the past simple. Did. So, okay, so he saw becomes did he see. The main verb remains in the infinitive because the auxiliary verb is where we conjugate. Then all we did was follow with the rest of the sentence and put a question mark at the end. Okay, now, what if we want to ask another question, this time using the question word who? What then? Well, in that case, what's the first word? Which word are we going to start with? Yes, that's right. We're going to start with the question word, aren't we? Okay then, let's see it. Who did he see in the sushi restaurant yesterday? All right, well, that's simple enough too, isn't it? We start with the question word who, then we follow with the auxiliary verb in the past simple, did, and then comes the rest of the sentence. After that, all we have to do is bung a question mark on at the end of the sentence, and we're done. And yes, we're done. We're out of time, and so it's time for us to part. But don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow, and we're getting closer to something new. We're not going to see it tomorrow, There's still more for us to look at briefly again, but every day which passes brings us closer. You all know that. All right, people, have a coffee, get some rest, check out the website if you've got some spare time. See you tomorrow. See you later. Bye.